And then we also were lucky enough to be able to acquire URL for Ripple. It came from a Grateful Dead super fan. It's related to the song Ripple from the Grateful Dead. We always loved the Grateful Dead.
I've been a Grateful Dead fan for 50 years, so.
It's related to the song Ripple from the Grateful Dead. We always loved the Grateful Dead.
It's a Greek symbol. And so out of that, we created a logo called the Triskelion, which is our Ripple logo.
Buy crypto, suckers!
We're here to cover the sneak preview of our new sponsor, Excellent Burger.
Excellent Burger. Well, they seem to be succeeding. $700.
Just getting word, Springfield Dam is ruptured and water is roaring down.
Our work on Phoenix, which continues to be in kind of alpha/beta, and
the XRP ledger is an open source decentralized technology, not dissimilar to Bitcoin. And some of the creators of the XRP ledger actually had been early engineers that worked on Bitcoin.
So the idea was to build both a more efficient consensus algorithm that accomplished the same thing. That's sort of effectively the birth of XRP.
I have been developing my own cryptocurrency.
To be in cash of the future, not in your wallet, I'm in your computer.
So will Frinkcoin finally be the invention that makes me rich? This equation, if solved, could make all digital coins worthless, including Frinks.
Could make all digital coins worthless, including Frinks.
Someone posted a solution on the whiteboard.
Did I do it?
Equation was solved. Solved by the one person who could solve it. Professor John Frink.
Ripple actually goes back to these three geniuses, what I'm saying right here, taking some of the ideas from the Ripple project around the idea of pathfinding algorithms to exchange anything of value for any other thing of value, kind of a magic combination.
NAS, the so-called black shakes, first identified in 2010 in a small population of Norwegian information work. Snatch back. Sorry, technical difficulty.
Please come in. 先生请.
Upload begins when you press here.
Oh, Jesus! Jesus! Shit!
Access denied. Access granted. Hotel Beijing selected. General account selected.
Fax charges 325.71, 15 January 2021.
Hey, wait, I couldn't have you talking to the Russians. And I begin to perform a variety of services. For starters, I reorganized their entire financial operation. Budgets, payroll, you name it. And the whole network is protected by a very powerful encryption system, so the government cannot read it. We were going to change the world, Marty. Remember? Did you ever get around to actually doing it? No, I guess not. Well, I think I can.
Really?
Yes. What's wrong with this country, Marty? Money. You taught me that. Evil defense contractors had it, noble causes did not. Politicians are bought and sold like so much chattel. Our problems multiply. Pollution, crime, drugs, poverty, disease, hunger, despair. We throw gobs of money at them. Problems always get worse. Why is that? Because money's most powerful ability is to allow bad people to continue doing bad things at the expense of those who don't have it.
I'm Bernard Abbott, National Security Agency. I believe you have something that belongs to me.
It's interesting, don't you think, you guys? That the NSA is here? I thought the FBI was supposed to do this kind of thing.
Absolutely. This is outside the NSA's jurisdiction.
Unless the NSA didn't want anybody to know about Janek's little black box.
I keep thinking about something Greg told me. He said that our codes were based on an entirely different system than the Russian codes. So this box really wouldn't work on them. The only thing it'd really be good for is spying on Americans.
Well, sure, with a box like that, they could read the FBI's mail.
Or the CIA's. Or the White House's.
No wonder they don't want it.
We're under the control of what I call the Cabal. And this is part of a grander scheme.
This is Paul Hellyer, the former Defense Minister of Canada, a man with access to classified intelligence and the inner workings of power. Now, he speaks candidly about what he witnessed behind closed doors and what's about to come.
And that's the end game. And that's what they're moving toward. They've been working at it for 50 years. And it's well advanced. If something isn't done, they're going to get away with it.
He says there's a larger plan in motion, and we're moving faster toward it than most people realize.
How powerful are they? Well, they are so powerful that they have taken over control of the United States. There's so much that's been kept in the dark that it's going to take a lot of unwinding to get at the truth. But truth, we must see.
What you're about to hear might make you want to share this video, because he doesn't just describe the entire system. He warns about what's coming next. And whether we realize it or not, that moment may be approaching faster than we expect.
Happily, some of us are beginning to talk about that sort of thing. And people are saying, "You're kidding me." And I said, "No, I'm not kidding you. But if it happens, just say, wave at them and say, we know you're playing games with us, and we're not going to go along with it. We're going to stand up for our rights."
Standing up for your rights can mean a lot of things. But in today's world, one of the rights most people have already lost is privacy. Because your personal information doesn't just stay with the websites you give it to. It gets collected, packaged, and sold by data brokers, appearing on people's search sites and databases most people don't even know exist.
I'm going to start with the money mafia, because it is the most urgent issue in the world today. The problem with the money situation is that there's only about one person in every 100 who really understands it. And there's some, we think of money in some esoteric way of we're wishing, of course, we'd had more. But it's a little complex.
Remember when someone else said the same thing? That the system is too complex to understand? Take a look.
But what I found was most people, what be it in business, in normal life, or in the world leaders, don't really understand money. It is something they think about. They have a sense of what it is. They certainly want more of it. But they also make statements like, we want more money, but we don't want more debt, which just shows a misunderstanding of what money at its core really is. So most people don't, they want to make it, they want to save it, but to understand it intimately is not a normal character.
Money first, then everything else falls into place. Stay with me, because this part is key to understanding the bigger picture.
It's just as a result of a system which has grown up, which is designed to take us to the cleaners. And something can be done about it, something must be done about it.
Now the explanation begins. And trust me, every piece matters. They all connect. So listen carefully.
So let's try to learn. What is money? Well, most people don't know. It used to be coins, silver, gold, copper, and some iron coins. But of course, we got too busy and too big to be able to do that. If you're going to buy a house, you can't put a bag and pay for it. So we started using paper money. And at first it was backed by some coins or things, and later, of course, it wasn't. But over the years, the system has changed to the point where today, only about 3% of all money is either coins or paper. 97% is virtual, and virtual means computer entry.
Money is just data now, which leads to the most important question of all. Who controls the data?
The first and probably the brightest of the governors of the Bank of Canada said that money was just a book entry. If he were alive today, he'd say money is just a computer entry. Well, the problem is, whose computers? And that's where we have to do something about it.
But whose computers? You've heard it a million times. Follow the money. And coming from a former defense minister, it's worth at least hearing him out.
We, the people, own the patent to create money. We have licensed private individuals to do it for us. And they now create 97% of all the money, but they create all of it as debt. And debt on which interest has to be paid, and no one creates any money with which to pay the interest, so you just keep going further and further and further into debt. The whole system is mathematically absurd. It's more insane than insane, if that's possible.
Before we go further, let's take a step back. This didn't appear overnight. It started somewhere. And to understand where we are, we have to understand where it all began.
I want to just give you a bit of a background on the history of the system is multiplied and what we call back leverage. If we go back 300 years when the Bank of England was chartered, they lent half of their money or all of their capital, their gold and silver, to the king at 8%. So he gave them a license to print, P-R-I-N-T, an equal amount and lend it to their rich friends at high interest rates. So in effect, they were allowed to lend the same capital twice.
Now, we've all heard about printing money, inflation, the Federal Reserve. It's not exactly news. And sure, it doesn't sound great. But wait until you hear how he connects the dots. Because those connections, let's just say they're eye-opening.
But to understand, most people have the myth, observe the myth, that if you go to the bank to borrow money to buy a car, that what they're lending you is deposit that somebody else made the day before or a couple of days before. Not so. They create the money. They're pretty well lent out all the time. So if you go in and say to buy a car for $35,000, and what they'll do is ask you for collateral, and if you have some stocks or bonds, okay, or failing that, you can give them a second mortgage on your house or your cottage, and if you can't do any of those things, you can get co-signature of a rich relative. And once they're satisfied with the collateral, then they'll have you sign a note for $35,000, repayable principal and interest at prime plus, 2 or 3%, depending on the color of your eyes. As soon as they're satisfied, they tap their computer, and $35,000 appears in your account that you can go out and spend. Seconds earlier, that money did not exist. It was created out of thin air.
So that money didn't exist until the moment you borrowed it. But here's the funny thing. You still pay taxes when you buy something, then taxes when you own it, then taxes when you sell it. Taxes on top of taxes. It's almost like we're renters on our own planet, and the landlord always collects. Makes you think about the system we've all just accepted, doesn't it?
And as a result of that borrowing, we have paid $1.1 trillion in interest since 1974, none of it which was necessary, none.
He just gave you the number for Canada. The US is sitting on $34 trillion in debt. Most of the world is in the red. But have you ever asked yourself, who's on the other side of that debt? Who are we paying? If you don't have a clear answer, you're not alone. So stay with me, because now he starts connecting everything.
Because it is all part of something bigger that's going on in the world, and that is to take away power from the people and give it to multinational corporations and banks who are under the control of what I call the cabal. And this is part of a grander scheme.
Maybe he's just an angry former politician with conspiracy theories. Or maybe he has insights that we don't. Either way, this is what he's saying.
Now this is being engineered, as I said, by an international cabal. Now what is a cabal? Is a group of people with the banking cartel at the apex, then the oil cartel, and then the international corporations, the transnational corporations, and then the U.S. Intelligence organizations, the FBI, the CIA, the NSA, and a huge chunk of the American military. And they're all in it together.
He makes a lot of claims here. And look, I don't know if it's true. I don't have that kind of access. But it does raise a question. Why would all these groups be in it together? What's the goal? That's where things get really interesting, and where his claims become harder to dismiss.
And you might say, well, where are they taking us? The end game is what they call it, which in plain English is that is not elected, but is run by bankers and elite. And that's the end game. That's what they're moving toward. And they've been working at it for 50 years.
Sounds familiar, doesn't it? We've all heard this kind of thing before. Maybe it's just a conspiracy, something people believe because they've been told it so many times. And honestly, I don't even know what to believe anymore. Maybe I just don't want to believe it. Anyway, he makes a lot of claims and we have to stay grounded here. But let's continue, because this is nothing compared to what follows. This is not over.
How powerful are they? Well, they are so powerful that they have taken over control of the United States. Neither the president nor the Congress is in control of the United States. The cabal is, and has been for years. They pick the presidents. If they don't like them, they get rid of them.
In his opinion, this is already happening. And sure, we can't prove it. But here's what's interesting. He's not just complaining about the past. He's trying to warn us about something that's yet to come. A big deception, as he calls it. As I told you, this is not over. So stay with it.
As President Clinton said in response to a question by White House reporter Sarah McClendon, he replied, and I quote, "Sarah, there is a government inside the government and I don't control it." Can you imagine?
Maybe from time to time we all get little clues like this one. And they say a lot, don't they? When a president says something of that caliber, even offhand, you have to ask, if he's not really in charge, then who is?
They control the free energy that we need. I don't know how many of you are familiar with that or not, but the same cabal owns the patents to free energy. And there are several different ways of going about that, but the most likely is what they call zero-point energy. Is the energy that's everywhere in the cosmos. It's unlimited. It could have been there long ago if it hadn't been for the fact that these people who are in control don't want to see any change.
He makes a strong claim about free energy, that we could have had it long ago. Whether you believe it or not, what comes next connects to something that affects every one of us. See what you think.
Well, the cabal is also responsible for the war on... The cabal is also AKA military-industrial complex. Dr. Carol Rosen, a friend of mine, worked with Dr. Werner von Braun, who was one of the scientists who came to work in the United States at the end of the war, and who mellowed as he got older, and said the industrial military complex has to have an enemy to justify all of this money they're spending on. So they have to have an enemy, and if they don't have one, they have to manufacture one. And he said, first it will be the, and then it will be the, and then it will be the extraterrestrials. And that's exactly the way it's unfolding.
That's a lot to take in, and I don't know what to make of it. But here's where he shifts from theory to something more immediate. A warning about what's still to come and why we should pay attention.
After they get through with the, they ever do, is to stage a mock attack in order to get the people of the United States to accept martial law as the onset of the new.
Guys, what's interesting is that recently, and I mean really recently, Obama was on a podcast and started saying things like this. Listen to this.
Are aliens real?
They're real, but I haven't seen them, and they're not being kept in, what is it?
Area 51?
Area 51. There's no underground facility, unless there's this enormous conspiracy, and they hid it from the President of the United States.
What was the first question you wanted answered when you became president?
Where are the aliens?
Where are the aliens?
And then almost immediately, Trump reacted, almost reinforcing what Obama affirmed. Here's what he said.
Something that got a lot of attention this week. Barack Obama said that aliens are real. Have you seen any evidence of non-human visitors to Earth?
Well, he gave classified information. He's not supposed to be doing that. You know?
So aliens are real?
Well, I don't know if they're real or not. I can tell you he gave classified information. He's not supposed to be doing that. He made a big mistake. He took it out of classified information.
Strange times. But Paul is not over yet, because he still has something to say to us.
Happily, some of us are beginning to talk about that sort of thing, and people are saying, "You're kidding me," and I said, "No, I'm not kidding you. But if it happens, just say, wave at them, and say, we know you're playing games with us, and we're not going to go along with it. We're going to stand up for our rights."
Maybe none of this is real. Maybe he went down the rabbit hole years ago and never came back. Or maybe he's right. But how could we ever prove it? He makes so many claims and most of them are impossible to verify. So where does that leave us? Confused, skeptical, unsure what to believe. But then there comes the part that resonated with me. The part I actually believe is true. Listen.
There was a time when Americans feared God, we did too, but in the post-war period, we have worshipped money. Money, power, and greed. And those have been the operative words. And so we think of nothing else. How can you make another buck? We have to change. And there's some wonderful things that are going on. There's some wonderful people in the world who are doing wonderful things, and more power to them. But what they need is the same thing 1,000 times over. We have to have a tsunami, as I call it, of changed lives, of people who are willing to put their lives on the line for what they believe and to change the world.
In August of 2019, BlackRock published a document that predicted exactly what would happen in 2020 and 2021. Every single thing that they outlined in that paper played out perfectly. Phase 1 is complete, but here's what almost nobody is talking about right now. Phase 2 is happening right now behind the scenes, and what they outlined for Phase 2 has massive implications for XRP holders and the entire crypto infrastructure shift that is happening in 2026. So today, I'm walking you through that document, what BlackRock CEO is saying about tokenization right now, what JP Morgan CEO just confirmed about blockchain, and why XRP could very well be positioned as the infrastructure for what's coming next. So comment 777 if you guys are feeling blessed, if you're feeling bullish, and if you're going to become the first millionaire in your family tree, confirm it by tapping the subscribe button. This isn't a conspiracy theory. It's publicly available on BlackRock's website, and you go read it yourself right now and check it out. And what's outlined in that paper happened exactly the way they said it would. So it's not as if they predicted it, it's as if they knew what was coming. And the paper didn't end with a crisis response. The goal was never just to inject money into the system. The goal was to shift the entire financial system towards digital programmable infrastructure, programmable money, tokenized assets, all moving on blockchain rails. That's what phase 2 is all about. And that's what's being built right now. So let me show you what this document actually says. But first, let me show you someone who's been tracking this since it was published.
What happened was the central bankers met in August of 2019, as they do every summer under the auspices of the Kansas Fed, and reviewed a plan that had been prepared by a group of retired central bankers working through the BlackRock Investment Institute called the Going Direct Reset. But what you saw happen in the pandemic was you shut down Main Street and injected $5 trillion into the economy directly, so that many of the larger players. So part of shutting down Main Street was you said that essentially publicly traded stocks, companies who had publicly traded stocks, were considered essential. So they were allowed to stay open. Small business, small farms were shut down, which meant you could shift the market share out of the little guys very cheaply into the big guys. And the big guys had trillions of dollars to go shopping to pick up assets cheap. And that led to a tremendous consolidation within the economy. So we are in that reset, and that reset continues. And where they want to go is they want to go to an all-digital financial system with programmable money.